Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the history program with the Limerick Historical Society. And as usual, I have Tom Donovan with me on the program. Tom, first of all, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tony.
And tonight we're going to a different subject again. As most of you out there know to watch these recordings, they would like to change the subject from week to week. And although as another man says, I have to have you back again another time, but no, I have enough people to keep me going, except for another at least 12 months, especially from people that were interviewed on the radio over the years. Anyway, tonight I have with me Dr. Charlotte Murphy. Charlotte, first of all, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Tony.
And tonight, a different subject. We're going to talk about stained glass. Now, in case you think we're going to talk about every Guinness signs and pub signs and that, no, we're not. I know that there are some lovely stained glasses, I suppose, pieces around, done in various pubs all over the country. But today we're going to talk about mainly about churches and the people that designed these windows and the colours that were involved in them. And you have to, unless there's something physically wrong with you, that you have to admire stained glass in churches, especially when the sun is shining. So first of all, Charlotte, the obvious names that come to mind with me are E.B. Hone, for example, and Harry Clark. Of course, there are lots of others, but Harry Clark did some beautiful windows in his time in the studio, didn't he?
Oh, he did. He did beautiful stuff. He died quite young. He was only just 40, and he had TB, and he died in 1930 or 31. I don't quite remember which. But I maintain there's one glass by him in Limerick. It must have been made by him just before he died in St. Patrick in St. Joseph's Church. You're going up the aisle, it's on the right-hand side. And it is just absolutely heavenly. The greens and the purples and the colours are just gorgeous. It was sponsored by Punches. It's the sponsorship is written at the end of the glass. And that Punches a Punches cross.
Yeah.
And I think it's overlooked. Certainly in the book that they brought out about Harry Clark's life, it's not mentioned at all. Now, whether it was just they overlook it or whether they feel it wasn't just by him, I don't know. But it's very hard to believe it wasn't produced by him himself. It is just absolutely gorgeous and very like the stuff that you'd see down in the Honan Chapel. There's also stuff came out of his studio, definitely not by him himself, because he was dead, but that is in the Augustinians. In 1942, the Augustinians was built, as you know. So there are, I think it's 5 single light windows behind the altar in the Augustinians. There's St. Augustine and St. Nicholas of Tolentino.
Monica is beautiful.
And so, yes.
The one is up high over the gallery. That is St. Monica.
It's Monica and Augustine. It's his conversion.
Yeah.
And meeting Ambrose, the Bishop of Milan, and he says, "Tole legge, take and read." That is absolutely, I agree with you, Tony. That's also coming from the Harry Clark studio. But the only trouble is, it's almost impossible. You never get up to see it. You never see it. It's totally lost up there.
It gets sunshine this time of the year in the evenings.
Yes.
Facing west, and then the church is closing. We need to be there about 8 o'clock in the evening.
That's right. Yeah.
The sun goes down behind O'Mahony's shop, and the light is gone. Which is a pity. But I know I'm very familiar because my mother worked in the Augustinian church when I was young, and I was very familiar with the window of St. Monica, and I remember the sun shining through it. It's a beautiful window.
It is.
Explain about Harry Clark. He died very young, but the studio survived after him, didn't it?
The studio survived, Tony, up to the 1960s because first of all, his father started a stained glass studio. He was in Frederick Street in Dublin. And then Harry obviously took up the business and was interested in it. But down in St. Mary's Cathedral, there's an enormous stained glass window of the Ascension of the Lord, unveiled in I'm open to correction about the exact, but 1963, I think. and that's in the north transept of St Mary's, and it came from the Harry Clark studio. I think that would be virtually one of the last that they produced.
Produced, yeah. Because I associate Harry Clark now, and again, I could be wrong, purple. You can identify, I think you can anyway. I've seen windows now, and I say to myself, I'm only guessing here, I'd say it's Harry Clark, and then somebody comes along and says, yeah, you're right, it is Harry Clark. He used a lot of purple in his windows, as opposed to Evie Hone. Tom, are you familiar with any windows of stained glass?
Oh yeah, I was up, actually, I'd like to ask Charlotte, I made the mistake. I was taking a group around a church in Glyn, and I said about a stained glass window, and I was corrected. I was told, no, it's painted glass.
That's right. That's I believe is correct, yeah.
Yeah. So they were always stained glass to me, no matter what, you know. But painted glass is when you take plain glass and paint a picture on it, is it? Or what's the difference between painted glass and stained glass?
There's a big difference. Stained glass is made when you melt sand and potash and you add lime to it, bring it to a very high temperature, and it becomes liquid, and then it solidifies after that. But to put the colors in, then they use various metallic oxides, like they would use gold even to make red, very deep red, or cobalt for blue, copper for green, and actually the glass is turned into the color that you're looking for. And they design it, they draw what they call a cartoon, which is what they intend to put up there, whatever saint it is, like St. Patrick, and they draw that out in total detail. In medieval times, there was no such thing as paper, and the vellum and all that were too expensive. So what they did to draw their cartoons was they got a white top, wooden top of some sort, and they drew the cartoon on that, in that, with great accuracy. And then they have to draw where the leading goes, where the pieces are joined together. All that is drawn in onto it. And the glass is colored, painted. The stuff in Glyn came from America, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it's actually painted the way you paint a door. There's that difference. Then, of course, it's fired to hold it. But with stained glass, the glass is what's colored.
And what is the difference between Harry Clark, when we talk about specific churches, Harry Clark and Evie Hone? Evie Hone was a different kettle of fish altogether.
Totally different. Well, I mean, the same difference there is between, sort of, say, yourself and myself, Tony, just totally individuals with a different view, different skills. Evie Hone did a lot of work in Paris, and was brought up from her family. The Hones had been famous painters in Ireland going back to the 18th century. And so she was very, she was coming from a tradition of painting and all that, and artwork, and she was studied in Paris. And then she came back to Ireland, and what she began to fall in love with was the glass, the stained glass. And she fell in love with medieval stained glass, simple, as her stuff is now deceptively simple, of course, but basically it looks simple, like medieval. Although I don't think medieval was very simple, but anyway, that's what they say about her. And then, because she was so involved in that, her philosophy of life took a turn, and she became a Catholic, because she loved doing, I suppose, in a way, she felt more at home with her subjects, and that she had, or was in churches. Now, there is the only piece of glass that she produced that I'm aware of that's in Limerick City is in the Holy Rosary. And it's the central panel. There's a triptych, there's 3 pieces of glass. It's the central panel, which is the baptism of Christ, is the one made by Evie Hone. It's beautiful. It's amber colored and that. Actually, I have...
These are the windows going into the Holy Rosary.
Can you see that sort of?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
See, that's Evie Hone's.
Oh, yes. Evie Hone now, to me again, used a lot of yellow. I thought.
She did. Ambers and yellows. But just to make a point about the other two pieces there were done, they were done by Roisin Murphy of Murphy and Devitt's.
The panels on the side.
The 2 panels on the side. Yeah, can you see them?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And who's
You have an Ascension and you have a beautiful Nativity.
yeah.
Now, she had been, Evie Hole, she had made that central panel, and then the church was extending, and the parish priest said, now Evie Hone was dead at this stage.
Actually young as well, did she?
What, love?
What age was she when she died? Evie Hone?
She was young. Well, I think she was, she would be, I think about 60s, in her late 50s or 60s. She never enjoyed really good health in her life. But the priest wanted to make, for the architecture, to extend the church. So he discussed it. He asked Murphy and Devitt's, would they come down and discuss it? And they did. And they said they would copy it. You'd be hard pressed to see that it's by 2 different hands, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And without being, as they say, without forging or taking any kind of credit that wasn't due to her, Roisin Murphy said she would produce 2 more panels to go with the 3rd one, as close as she could to the original, without trying to to pretend it wasn't hers. So the priest was quite amenable to that, and then they put it over. If you remember the Holy Rosary, as you face the altar, they had it over on the left-hand side. Hard to see. Remember? The Holy Rosary, when you're facing the high altar, it was over. Now, I'm not quite sure if it was the present parish priest, or maybe it was the one previous to him. He took it out of that and put it on the other side. It would be the right-hand side at the top of the church. And you were talking about the light. The purpose why he changed it was because the setting sun will shine in the Ennis Road, because it's facing west, and will shine in through that glass window when the sun is setting. And the effect is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But I never heard her now. Who is she again, you said? Who did it?
Roisin, they set up the Murphy Devitt Company. They met, they were working. There was a Desi Devitt and Murphy. They were working for the Harry Clark Studios, and that's where they met. And there was Roisin Murphy, there was Roisin, the woman, married to Murphy, and then there was Desi Devitt. And they said they'd set up their own business. And they did. About 1959, well, late 50s. And they set up their own business. And they did a lot of work in Limerick and Clare, an awful lot of work. And I'd say that's where the priest came upon them there, if you like, and he got the idea of extending.
Actually, talking of stained glass now, it reminded me of something else. There's a friend of mine died last Thursday week.
I'm sorry to hear that, Tony.
Joe Revington was a senior counsel, and Joe was a great grandnephew of Thomas Revington, who built Ardú House.
Right, yeah, there's beautiful glass in that.
That's how I'm going to come to now.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful stained glass window with the Revington, with the cheap and the centre. As you go up the stairs in the Ardú, I hope it still survives. I remember Joe was saying that they were hoping to kind of get it done up and cleaned and that, never came about.
I have a photograph of it, but the photograph must be 20 years old. I hope it's still there, yeah.
I don't know who did that, who made that window. I do not know.
I don't either.
He had Revington Stores, the warehouse where Todd's were afterwards.
Oh, no, Thomas Revington, yeah. Well, he was a fellow. He bought a lot of property in on the north side of town. Let's say the North Liberties, all around. Well, we know today is Revington Park. And he sent his brother to Tralee to open a store in Tralee, which still bears the shop is gone, but the name was still up. That was there 2 years ago anyway. And that's Joe descends from him, then that brother, who was a brother of Thomas Revington. But Joe was on about that window, was hoping to get that restored a few years ago. But there was a little bit of controversy as regards the building and that. And after the crash we had in 2010, and the hotel then was closed, and the window kind of went in, not so much into disuse, but there was nobody using the hotel. What happened was a beautiful window when you went into the old hotel. When you went into the lounge, you could see this window right at the top of the stairs.
And who did that window?
I'm just saying it. Don't know. And I should have asked Joe. Joe had only slight interest in that individual because he didn't
his brother Gordon has more interest in history, actually.
Yeah, Gordon's still alive, but they're living in Chile because that's where they opened the big Remington stores in Chile. But like Thomas Remington had a lot of land, as I said, on the North Circle Road and that, and
But getting back, sorry, I don't think Charlotte finished there. What I'm interested is making the glass. You said that they make the different color glass and they have lead. And do they cut the glass out then to fit the cartoon, as you call it?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be
absolutely.
The measurements have to be so accurate. Obviously, yes. They cut it out then to fit the cartoon, and the leading and the adhesive goes together. And obviously, then they have to handle this with such care. But they do buy in, even in medieval times. They would buy in, if you like, the sheets of coloured glass from France or England. They'd make their own as well sometimes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Brian Hodkinson, I hope I'm not misquoting him now or misremembering, he said that they found pieces of work that had been done around the site of St. Mary's Cathedral, which might indicate that the stained glass was made in situ. Now, I hope I haven't got that wrong, but that's.
Would it not be from broken windows? Maybe.
From crumble and whatnot. But no. This seemed to be workings. It was stuff that would be now, but which would be very understandable, obviously. But
just forgive me now. I know very little about stained glass, but we'll say Harry Clarke did a window. What input has Harry Clarke? Does he draw the cartoon, or does he cut out the glass, or
design? I'd say the design.
I'd
imagine the design. I mean, everything.
The cartoon
would be.
When you said the design is cartoon, is it?
Well, the design, the priest would say, well, now will we have St. Patrick? And he said, okay, we'll have St. Patrick. Okay, so obviously they discussed what symbolism would go with Patrick and the colours. And then like Harry Clarke would, like if I'm drawing St. Patrick, he's going to look desperate. But like if Harry Clarke draws him, he's going to look wonderful. It's anything, like frying an egg. One person cannot do it the same as another. And Harry Clarke just had this one wonderful gift. And the faces, you were saying, Tony, that something about Harry Clarke. Harry Clarke's, Evie Hone very much was attracted to the medieval style glass. I think like Harry Clarke is very much pre-Raphaelite. He's 19th century Victorian. You know, the pre-Raphaelites, you had these, it was very romantic. You had the women with the huge head of red hair and very large lips and soulful eyes. And I think Harry Clarke tended, he was highly romantic.
Did he take account of where the window was going? We'll say,
of course,
if it was where the setting sun was coming in, like in the Holy Rosary or whatever, would he pick the colours to suit the situation of the window?
I'd say all those things were done in concert, would have to be. But I'd say with somebody who would have such a reputation as Harry Clarke, people would kind of defer to him, obviously. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If Harry Clarke would say, this would be nicer, dark green, people say, all right, okay.
Yeah.
I remember we went to see an Evie Hone window. I think it was in King's Court. Church in King's Court.
Yeah. It was moved, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because Patricia Humphreys was doing not a thesis, but a kind of a story of Evie Hone. And she wanted to see this particular window, I remember, up in County Cavan, in King's Court, to see this Evie Hone window, which was up behind the high altar. But then there's in Castle Connell, for example, now they covered up the the stained glass at the back of the church, which happens as well. They put in a new kind of an altar and blocked off the beautiful stained glass at the
In
back.
Castleconnell.
I remember that, yeah, a few years ago. Yeah, they put up this kind of I shouldn't use the
Yes.
word.
It was a green and red kind of a screen, wasn't it?
Yeah. You see, and that because
I
stained
think
glass.
that's gone.
Is it? I hope, because they blocked it off. I remember now. I remember going in and saying, "Where's the stained glass?" And they had this big altar inside, which it was a shame. But there is.
I was in Castleconnell Church just in the autumn.
Yeah, I haven't been there.
And I think I agree with you, Tony, about the red and green screens where I thought, I wouldn't like them, but
Yeah.
I think they'd opened the stained glass because I was interested in the stained glass and I took a picture of it. And I also took, what do you call it? A plaque there to your man from White, from Belmont.
Helena White
paid for the glass.
Yeah, they did. I know that. I was going to say that now. Helena White lived at Belmont. Yeah, they're actually still above. There's a Helena's living above in a Cockwell, actually in County Galway now. But and then of course with the Whites, who relatives out in Nentonin, out near between the Skeeton and Rathkeale.
Okay, yeah.
White is there because White was he married. I was corrected in the story. Well, I have to tell you the story. The story was, and it was well known that Colonel White, who married, she married, what's her name, the writer, God, I can't think of her name now this minute. She was originally from Clare. She was blood. And she married, who did she marry the first time?
Thomas, wasn't it?
Sally Hope? No, God, I can't think of her name now. Conyers, Dorothea Conyers.
Oh, yeah.
Dorothea Conyers, well, she was blood herself from Ballykilty.
Right. Okay.
The Bloods were a big Clare family. And then one of them were accused of, was he Neptune, of stealing the crown jewels. I remember he was involved in that. But anyway, she married White then as her second husband, Colonel White. They were Catholic. And they had a little, what you call a small little house, dormitory, outside Nentonin. But the story was, and it was great to be corrected, that the story I'd heard was that she was Church of Ireland. He was Catholic. So the story was that he'd take her up to Mass in Kappa to see what all this Mass was about, as she said. So the story was she went up to Mass with him. Now, they were supposed to reputed to have cycled up to Mass in Kappa Church. But when they came out, their bicycles were stolen. She was reputed to have said, if this is Catholicism, I'm not having any of this. Right. But a man corrected me and said to me one day, he said, you're wrong in that story, he says to me. I said, I remember it well in Rathkeale after a talk, and I said to him, what happened? He said, it was a car he had, and that can be proven out, Tom, on the current, the list that Mike McGuire, the car registers.
Yeah.
See, Colonel White is down having a car. They went up by car, and the car was used for some kind of an IRA job.
All right.
Yeah.
Somebody came into Mass, put a gun up to the colonel inside in the church and said, we need the keys to your car. And so it was a car that was stolen, not bicycles.
Yeah.
Dorothea Conyers, and she never became a Catholic anyway, but it was great to be correct in the story. I thought it was funny to see the two of them. Surely they would have had a pony and trap, not to cycle up to Mass, up to Capitol, but seemingly he was one of the first car owners. And because she was something else of a writer, Dorothea Conyers, she's written a lot of little novels on hunting and she's buried outside in Castletown Conyers. I know. I know.
I remember John Leonard talking to me about, he was collecting all the Limerick writers and he was trying to collect all Dorothy Conyers, and every time he got one, there was a new one coming along.
That's Father John Leonard.
Dorothy Conyers.
And he's talking about that. No, I'm just saying it's Father John Leonard you're on about.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't expect Charlotte to, but I was up in Kiltegan one time and I went into a church out in the countryside and there was a fantastic Harry Clark The church itself was nothing to write home about, but there was a beautiful Harry Clark window. And I remember, I just had to be there, like you say, Tony, when the sun was hitting it. And it reminded me of the one in Kilrush. It was beautiful colours and everything,
There's some beautiful stained glass around.
Yeah.
And even apart from the big windows, there's some small little memorials. Like in Tipperary town, there's one inside the church, and the porch going in to a soldier. I should know the soldier, and I can't think this minute. I can't think this minute. And these little small memorial windows. There's one down in the church in Tipperary. I can't think of the church again. We were in it one time, Charlotte, on an outing. It's got to do with one of the priests down there. Oh God, I can't. Where's the watermaid down there? The watermaid. Where's the bottling crowd?
Arcely.
Arcely, the church in Arcely. There's a beautiful one there to a bishop at the end of the church. And I can't think now who made it, but it's a lovely window, lovely colours in it.
No, Charlotte, do you know, like, if a parish were building a church and they had more money, were they more flamboyant, and did they go for like the likes of Harry Clark? Like somebody's has money and they buy a Mercedes.
Yeah,
or was it?
Yes, it's good question, Tom. I think, like everything else, it was a matter of preference. Like what the parish priest knew about and what he'd seen, or what his parish council, or maybe the parish down the road had a glass something and they admired it. It was, tis all of those kind of ifs, buts, and ands. But
there wasn't
I
a picking.
think we're inclined to. I think there is a tendency to just think. I mean, and they are wonderful. Harry Clark, that's it, and maybe Sarah Evie Home. But there is an amount of stained glass, beautiful stained glass. Some of it, the maker is not known at all, because a man called Wynne did a PhD back in 1960 on 200 years of stained glass in Ireland, and he said that up to 1903, when they founded on Tuairglinna, there were 50 different companies in Ireland making stained glass, small little ones, making small glass for. But then an awful lot of glass as well came in we got a lot of glass in from England, and of course, and Mayors. And if you say Mayors of Munich, people turn up their nose. Now they shouldn't. I don't think they should. Mayors produced absolutely beautiful.
Coloured windows to me were Mayors. You see oodles and oodles of different colours.
Absolutely.
Tony,
can you see that? You see that?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Now that's Mayors.
Yeah.
That's Mayors, and it's obviously St. Joseph, and it's St. Joseph out in Monaleen Church. Now, I would defy anybody to say that isn't quality work.
What is it?
It's superb. The detail, the detail in the drapery, the colours, and and people are inclined to be, well, when I say people, what I call the intellectuals, are inclined to be very dismissive of this Victorian work. I mean, and 'tis a pity, because, they repay an awful lot of study. As I said, Mayors, there's Harry Clark, and don't forget Early's. Early's were a wonderful company as well. They did one of the last things I think they did was the rose window down in Kilrush Church.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the last things Early's have. They're no longer present now.
Explain about two things. Tuairglinna, explain what that was. And Sarah Purser. First about Tuairglinna. What was Tuairglinna?
It was because people were seeing that now not all glass was coming in from England by any manner of means, but a lot of our stained glass. And they felt, well, look, why should that money be going away from Irish artists or Irish artisans, whatever you like to call them? And we should have our own particular voice. And Sarah Purser set up with lots of other people, but 1903 on Tour Glenna, the kind of the Tower of Glass. Now she got help from the director, with the terrible ironies of which history is filled, was a man called A.E. Child, who helped her. Yeah, and he was a stained glass artist and produced absolutely beautiful glass. And he produced it. If you Abington Church. Church of Ireland. Church of Ireland. I have a picture. I have a picture. Look at that for an incredible church.
I forgot about that now altogether. Yeah.
Yes.
Lovely church.
It's just now in that church in Abington, there's lots of it is by mayors of Munich, and it's lovely. And there's one glass by A.E. Child, and it is just so beautiful. It's Our Lady with the child Jesus, and playing with the two of them, if you like, is St. John the Baptist. It's based, that famous painting by Leonardo. You have Our Lady with it's same theme, Our Lady with the child Jesus, and John the Baptist is playing with him, and you have two lovely little doves down in the corner. And again, the face of Our Lady, it's very what I call pre-Raphaelite. I'm open to correction and all these things, of course. It's again like the kind of, it's a very romantic face, very beautiful. It has a beautiful softness. Now, some people dismiss these things. Oh, it's sentimental, and what's wrong with being sentimental? I don't think it's. I think it's absolutely beautiful piece of glass. It really is. And there's loads of glass in that church, apart from the fact that
lovely church. I mean, you know the church.
I know, yeah.
Incredible.
Beautiful church.
Beautiful church by a man called Carroll, who was an architect, an Irish architect, and did a lot of work up in. He did Classy-Bawn House.
Oh, lovely.
Poor Mountbatten's house. That same architect.
But speaking of mayor, I remember Father Seamus Enright gave us a tour of the Redemptorist Church one night, and he said he had to correct a tour guide one day who told the people he was with that the church, the window was presented by the mayor of Munich.
I like it. But there's a huge concentration of I mean, every actually thing about churches, every single one of them is a mini art gallery, be it Church of Ireland, be it Catholic. But if you go to St. Mary's Cathedral, they have a collection. They have an absolutely mind-boggling collection of stained glass.
Yeah.
Because in the old days, well, the reformers didn't like things like stained glass. They did away with it as much as they could. And of course, Cromwell did away with it, with art. But in the mid-19th century, there was the Oxford movement. People like Newman and that, they were looking at, looking back at history and where did, Catholicism and where it joins and where it's parted and all sorts of things. And there was a big movement there was Dr. Pussy, and there was the Tractarians, and there was the Bishop of Limerick, Bishop Jebb, who was bishop here in Church of Ireland bishop in the 1830s. And they were very anxious to bring back glass and beautiful ornaments and objects into the churches. And one of the bishops of the Church of Ireland said, nothing can be too beautiful. I'm paraphrasing now. Nothing can be too beautiful in the house of God, where you are, if you like, entertaining the creator of the universe. The best you can give, the most beautiful. And he was very much in favor of glass and colored glass and all kinds of lovely things coming back into the strict, shall we say, strict churches. And if St. Mary's Cathedral is just...
You mentioned now it finished off in Toadlena. When did it?
Sorry.
And when did it finish?
It seems to peter out. It didn't last that long. I often wonder, there's if you know the glass in St. Munchin's Church, Catholic
Yeah.
Church,
Yeah.
and you have Our Lady in there are three single light individual glasses behind the apse. You have the central one is Our Lady, and the one over here is, now, I know it's an awful thing to admit publicly, but I never know O'Callaghan from Clancy, of the two mayors that were killed in the 1920s.
Go ahead anyway.
Which is the one? There's one on the. He's best dressed up as a Roman centurion. I don't know if it's one of the murdered mayors anyway. And his name is on it. You know,
It is.
yeah. And if you look at the sides of that along, it's very highly kind of Celtic design, and I think it's on Tour Glenna. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because I'm familiar with in the churches.
I think Harry Clark kind of, I won't say squashed them, but kind of made them unobvious or whatever. You know, he really took over. And Evie Hone. I know she was in on Tour Glen as well. They kind of went in and out, and people would join and people would leave, but it was kind of the philosophy of, you know, we should be able to produce really good glass for ourselves, for our own churches, using our own artists.
Yeah. Also, there was two things come to mind now about glass that was saved. For example, Donald O'Malley, when he was PP in Our Lady Lourdes, he was able to get windows taken from the Good Shepherd.
Yes.
Out to Our Lady Lourdes, where they didn't have any stained glass, because Lady Lourdes didn't have the money at the time, and the design as well. It's just all clear glass.
Yeah.
Our Lady Lourdes. There was never stained glass till Dunnock was able to get these windows removed and put in Lady Lourdes.
There's a fabulous book called The Catholic Directory, and I've come across it through the cooperation of the diocesan archivist. Sorry, he's always very kind. And I came across an advert in one of those books. Harry Clark's studio, 1932, was saying that it had made a suite of glass, of stained glass, for the Good Shepherd convent in Limerick. And it had installed the suite of glass, stained glass. So the whole of not just the church, but the building as well, would, according to this ad, contain Harry Clark's work. Now, I went in there when I saw this ad. I went down there. I went into to the Good Shepherd, into the art school, and a very kind lady. I think she was the librarian, and she was very kind and very helpful. But she didn't know where the glass had gone. And I said, "Have you got a report?" And she said, "Well, we don't. I don't have one anyway." She said, "There's not one in the library." And I said, "Like, where a report on the building changes and whatnot." And she said she didn't have it. But so I went around. I said, "Do you mind if I walk around?" She said, "No, stop." I went to one or two. There was obviously down the sides of doorways and across one or two doorways, obviously stained glass. Now, if the ad was correct, it was a kind of it wasn't the kind of high status stuff that would be in a church, but it would be Harry Clark's kind of a utilitarian stained glass, if that ad is correct. But I don't know what happened. That church in the Good Shepherd, that was done by your man who also did Mona Lean.
Sheehan.
Can't bring him to mind.
That's Sheehan.
Which?
The designer.
He designed the church in the Good Shepherd. He was all. His name is familiar to me now as yours, Tony.
Is it Sheehan? Yeah. Is it Sheehan, or was it the other fella, Corbett?
Corbett.
No. Sheehan's.
I'm getting my name. There's two things you see getting mixed up in my mind. One is that the stained glass chap, A.E. Child, but it's very like George. What was his name? It's I mean, Tony, I know his name, but anyway, he designed the church in the Good Shepherd. He's also the designer of the church in Monaleen. The church in the Good Shepherd is just, I mean, it's now just whatever, but it is just incredible.
Yeah,
it's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, the stained glass, I know anyway, is above in. I'm nearly certain that stained glass anyway.
But please God, it's somewhere, that it's been preserved.
I must find out now which of them is above Nolly Loads. I know there are windows that are in Loads that were taken from somewhere anyway.
Yeah.
There now, or it's St. Mary's Convent, one or the other.
Now, St. Mary's Convent, I know that's in the Holy Rosary. One of their main, their central, it's a beautiful one too. I'd say it's by Mayors as well. It's in the Holy Rosary, center, over the high altar.
And Charlotte, would you be able to recognize, we say, Mayors, Clark's, Evie Horn? Now, if you walked into a church you'd never been in before, would you have a hunch?
I think most people would recognize Harry Clark. He's incredibly distinctive, wouldn't he? He's incredibly distinctive.
I would.
Harry Clark. Evie Horn, yes, you could as well, because she's very distinctive as well, while being extremely simple. Deceptively simple, not simple, but she hasn't the what you call it, the romantic glamour of Harry Clark. Mayors, I wouldn't always, no. Mayors, I think what you'd go by when in Mayors, I mean, they're fabulous too, but you'd go by the design, if you like, you see this sort of stuff down the, can you see me? Sorry. This kind of, the decorations and that, and they are very good quality, but at the same time, there isn't that much movement in them. Do you know what I mean?
And another question, from your experience, what's your opinion of the stained glass in the extension in the Dominican Church?
Oh, very interesting question. Very interesting question. That's done by Murphy Devitt.
Yeah.
Murphy Devitt, I was saying, remember the three who came together, they were working for Harry Clark. And Murphy Devitt set up, it is done by them. And what do you think of it? Have you reservations about it, Tom?
No. Because coming from an agricultural background, I like it. But, I just thought it was strange. Yeah.
Yeah. What I like is the feature I like about it, where the different things on it, about what's happening and, the things around.
It's different.
Yeah. So I love seeing it. But I like it anyway. I like the colour in it.
I think so. And of course, it has this very interesting story.
Tell me about the story.
It tells the story about, the Cromwell, the Archon siege of Limerick, and the Bishop of Emily, Terence Albert O'Brien, and there were other people as well who were determined not to surrender to Archon. And he said, when I'm coming in, you're all dead. And that's what happened. When Archon took the city, they immediately, and you can see him hung up in chains in the stained glass. The stained glass is fascinating, and you see the people of Limerick, and they're in very dark colours, and they're kind of praying as he's been done to death, and they hanged him, and then they cut off his head and they stuck it on a spike outside the St. John's Gate, I believe, and according to the thing. And he's buried. He must be buried in St. John's graveyard. He would have. So I mean. I'm sure he would. But finally, when they took him down after him decayed, he would be buried. It's a fabulous piece of glass, as you say. There's the yellow. There's the yellow of his garments. There's the black of the mourning people of Limerick. They also have his final words, his final speech to the people of Limerick in the glass, and then it does. It has. The Pope's visit in 1979. It has Ireland in his treasures. It has Ireland in 1798, the burning and the rebellion and all that. It does all that in glass. And there's one figure, Tony. I'm sure you two the same. And if you go in and have a look and see, can you find him again? Gallopin Hogan. Gallopin Hogan is on the glass. And I think he is the most it's fabulous. It's just a rider with a cloak coming out behind him, and it's all purple and black. It is, I think, an absolutely fabulous what would you call it? Picture is too ordinary a word. Fabulous piece of glass.
Yeah.
And I think it really speaks to Limerick people more than, of course, it is all about Limerick, obviously, turns out. And that.
Go back and take another look at it. As soon as the church is open, we have to go back and take another look.
This is it. I mean, there's so much to see in all these things. And
they're never explained, you see, properly. Stained glass, I never knew anything about stained glass when I was a child. You just went into a church and it kind of frightened you, really. It was so dark if the sun wasn't shining. Places temples always seemed kind of dark, you know, with not light.
We got a tour of the cathedral now, St. John's Cathedral. By one of the priests up there, and like he explained the stained glass and the stories in it, and it was fascinating. You know, it's just because you walk into church, you look up at them, and you walk out. You don't really look and see what saints are in it, or you know.
Two of those are the two big 5-light windows. There's one in each transept, and they're both by mayors. That was reported in the paper, and they were given by the O'Briens of South Hill, Mr. and Mrs. O'Brien, and they cost £600. Imagine trying to, you know, you have the Transfiguration of Christ is on the left-hand side as you face the altar, and then, as you say, all pictures from the miracles of Christ, if you like, in the New Testament. And on the right-hand side, you have Our Lady in the center and the mysteries of the Rosary and those in that glass. It's 5 lights, you know, filled with glass, and they're both by mayors. And go and look at them again now. And they are lovely. They are fabulous. The only one that, as I said, think of £600 like for that work. They were put up in the 1880s. They were 1881, 82. Now the central one, there's 5 lights over the high altar in St. John's, as you know. The glass was put up in the 1860s, that one, and it's dedicated particularly to Our Lady and the doctrine of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. And Our Lady, and there's Jesus above her, and they're all saints. There's St. Joseph and there's St. Patrick. St. Patrick is interesting. He's in a red. He's not in green. He's in a red vestments, but he's definitely St. Patrick because he's holding the shamrock. And you've St. Senan and St. Munchin and all that. Now that is a fabulous piece of glass. And if you read Bishop Fleming's book on St. John's Cathedral, he says, they obviously can't find any documentation in relation to it. And he says, well, maybe it was from Birmingham. Now, Birmingham is another kind of insult word. It's a bit like, mayor to be. And it shouldn't be. Birmingham glass, and I would say the one in St. John's Cathedral, is by Hardman and Company. Now, Hardman and Company were the right-hand people of Augustus Welby Pugin. Pugin, as you know, didn't just design churches. He designed everything. He designed vestments, stained glass. He was a fabulous stained glass artist. And he would design it. Tom was asking me how they came to these things. He would design it. He would do the cartoon. And he went along to a man called Hardman, who he knew was sympathetic to his ideas and who would produce glass that would suit him. And Hardman and Company were Birmingham, and they made his glass. And they made glass out in Adair for him. Now, I think that 5-light window over the main altar in St. John's was also, I would imagine, it has, well, put it this way, I would think it has very strong Pugin influences. If you can get up close, take a picture and then zoom in on the picture, and it has little castles and beautiful colours. And I think that's why they put St. Patrick in red. They were going to put him in green. I'm only joking. But it's a beautiful window. It's a beautiful window. And the trouble is, you're so far away from it that you really can't enjoy it, I think is the only word. Unless you do take a close-up picture and then zoom in on your computer. And it's just, the colours are just wonderful in it.
You mentioned, Charlotte, there about moving the stained glass window in the Holy Rosary Church. I mean, I often look
St.
at
Mary's.
No, not the Holy Rosary, is it?
the Holy Rosary. They moved
Holy-
it up to where the sun was. They moved the stained glass window to more light, what was more light in the Holy Rosary.
Yeah.
Oh, the Evie Hone one. Yes, they did.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, like, you look at stained glass windows, sometimes you wonder, like, say, in the organ loft in the Redemptress,
Yeah.
there's some lovely windows there, and like
Beautiful.
you wonder, like, they're kind of hidden away,
Totally hidden.
Yeah,
Yes, they
yeah,
are.
yeah,
Which is
You
a
know,
pity. Yeah,
and it's a bit of a waste.
it is a bit.
Yeah.
It is a bit because they were made. They were made for color, for create atmosphere, and as teaching. They were made for teaching as well.
Yeah, like high crosses, yeah. Something onto the high crosses.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Of season. Listen, I hate mentioning, but we have to. The Holy Chapel in Cork.
Yes,
I mean, it's magnificent.
it is. Well,
I hate it.
denying that, Tony.
It's in Cork. I don't want to talk about it, but you have to talk about the stained glass in the Holy Chapel. It's beautiful. It's just the windows. They're so small, and
Yeah,
the beautiful windows there.
Yeah.
The Holy
yeah, it's beautiful. And Cove Cathedral as well is beautiful. I was in it recently. The cathedral in Cove.
Cove, yeah. So why since I've been there now, I must
It's
say.
beautiful stained glass.
But just not cutting across either, you gentlemen, but to get back to St. Mary's Cathedral in Limerick, it's its body of stained glass is phenomenal. Because if you read, I was reading stuff there, an article in one of the Georgian productions, and there's a chap and he's doing studying of stained glass in the Church of Ireland parishes, and he wrote an article on the Limerick Art Firth and Aghado and Killaloe all together.
Yeah.
And he was saying that even English stained glass experts say that there's glass in St. Mary's by a company called Clayton and Bell. It made the glass over the high altar, and it also did the one on the south. The one, it's a big 5-light window. It's, when you come into the church on the south side,
facing the roadways.
it's the Barringtons.
Yeah.
Barringtons subscribed it. Now, he said that this chap in England, he said, there is nothing anywhere in England or Ireland to compare with Clayton and Bell's stained glass. Now, it's it's a bit like the stuff in St. John's. You absolutely can't see it unless you get a lovely atmosphere of pink, of blue and red. And there's 50 little round pictures and from the Old Testament and the New Testament. And you need a close-up with photography. And there's a lovely picture in the book I was reading. It's lovely, from one of the roundels of this, the round of this glass. And it's Noah and his ark. And it's just perfection. And you have the ark. And then you have the animals, 2 by 2. You have 2 elephants climbing up the gangplank. Yeah. And behind them, you have 2 giraffes climbing up the gangplank. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's endearing. And it's such a pity that you can't get at it closer. But he's of the opinion that maker, Clayton and Bell, London, there's 3 or 4 pieces of glass by them in St. Mary's Cathedral. And they're just, there's a huge collection of glass in St. Mary's Cathedral.
You forget about it, really.
And you were talking about, and I meant to say it at the time, you were talking about what you get in St. Mary's Cathedral, you don't get in the Catholic, is heraldry. You get, there's one there now, a bishop, I think he was the Bishop of Limerick, or maybe he was Dean Napier. And there's the Napier coat of arms. And then he was married to a lady called Falconer. And she has her coat of arms in the glass. It's really, you don't get that in the Catholic churches. They don't get the heraldry.
That was frowned on in the Catholic Church, wasn't it?
It was.
Very much so, yes. To seen as a kind of snobbery, I suppose, yes.
It gets back to money. You know, there's who's going to pay for this? You know, and the families had money to pay for it.
Well, I suppose, yeah, the family would, yeah.
Church Cathedral, you can read quite plain at the end of that. That was done by Mrs. O'Brien of South Hill House.
Oh, yes, yes.
Easy to read. You can read that actually by not even squinting, by just looking up at it.
Yeah.
It's prominent, you know. Some of the other names are very prominent.
Yes.
And, you know, they wanted to put it in big writing, you know. Some of the churches I've been to over the years have it at level, at nearly ground level. Some of the windows are, you know, and in some of the churches, and you can read. Whereas Kilkee now, Kilkee has beautiful windows as well. There's St. Dempner there, I know. Very much. And there's the Saints are up along the side, at the left-hand side coming up in Kilkee, and they're beautiful windows as well. They're at ground level. You can touch the windows, you know. You can identify the saints, you know, who they are. But some of the
St. Aisha, don't forget St. Aisha, she's there.
Yeah.
She was known in Limerick as St. Aisha.
St. Aisha, well, St. Aisha.
St. Aisha.
There's a bit of crossover on the estuary between St. Aisha and St. Senan. St. Senan and St. Aisha crossover, you know. Yeah. It's probably a priest. It's probably a Limerick priest to put it in.
When the Kilrush Church one to St. Senan, there's a big one to St. Senan in Kilrush Church.
Yeah.
Windows anyway now. It's a long time I was in Kilrush Church now. And like that, you'd want to be going back. But before, just on any went off at the Holy Chapel, the windows in that, they're kind of small. They're not very big windows.
No.
Colours in those windows. We should tell people that if we're talking about in Cork now, the Holy Chapel, people say, where's that church or where's that chapel? You know, that's in Cork. And we'd have to go down. Loch Ray is another one that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's incredible, yeah.
There's lovely windows. St. Brendan is in the windows, and they're all beautiful.
That's another chap that we didn't mention at all, and I'd say he's I don't know if he's second to Harry Clark, but he's certainly incredible, is Michael Healy.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely fabulous.
There's the windows in Loch Ray are beautiful.
Loch Ray, by him, yeah.
I forgot that.
Wouldn't it be a great job for nowadays for some student to index all the church windows and the ones that are known, you know, to do an index of all the different church manufacturers, you know, even for Limerick alone.
It would. The thing about it is, though, like the Church of Ireland have the representative church bodies, which acts as a kind of an archive for all their work and all that sort of thing. But the Catholic Church don't have it. As I said, there is the Limerick Diocesan Archive.
But
and I've gone trawling there a couple of times.
David Bracken's done a lot of good work.
Is that him? He's at the freezing there for a minute. He's at the freezing. He's at the freezing anyway. He'll come back to us in a second. But
it's very hard.
There are so many churches out there, some beautiful windows with saints and people, as I said at the beginning. Tom, you were at the freezing there for a second, but you know it or not.
Yeah.
Well, you were going to say something.
No, I was just saying that David Bracken did a lot of work since he went into the Limerick Diocesan Archive. But before that, it was almost inaccessible. But it's a pity, as Charlotte said, that there isn't an overall body like the church representative body, you know, and I think it will happen as the church shrinks, the church as a body shrinks, you know, they'll probably will have to amalgamate, you know, and concentrate.
Another window, Jared, a few weeks ago here, we had on Gerald Madden talking about up in Mount Shannon and that, and then we got talking about Tumgraney. The window from the Ivors family in 6 Mile Bridge, the old Church of Ireland in 6 Mile Bridge, that window was removed up to Tumgraney, the church in Tumgraney going in. And that's a beautiful window as well, where you have the Ivors family on the window. But luckily, because it's been vandalised in 6 Mile Bridge, and luckily they got it. But the only problem with them, Ger said, insurance for a window is impossible nearly, to insure windows.
I suppose you'd have to put sort of thing on, what do you call it, kind of netting or something on the outside. They'd have to get protected.
And what is the rose window going to be replaced in Notre Dame? because the lead started to melt with the heat.
Yeah.
That went on fire.
Yeah.
The lead was melting in the windows, you know.
Mm.
So is that rose window? I presume it's going to be replaced in Notre Dame when it's finally finished.
What do you think?
Well, that's it, will, because they got the
That's
money
it.
for it anyway, you know. Who's going to make a rose window like you see the great cathedrals in York and
This
in
is
London,
it.
some of the
Yes, yeah.
buildings?
Is all that artistic kind of know-how gone? But you
No.
just yeah. But
I would
look,
think
can I
so.
just show you this now? Look at
Yeah.
this. Look at this. Can you see that? No.
Oh, people say, yeah, now, yes.
See that? Now, isn't
Yes.
that beautiful? That's
Oh,
now. Where
yeah.
is that? Okay, where would I go and find that now? This minute.
I wouldn't have a clue. That's all
Come
right.
on, Tony. You
So
should know.
Hold it up again. Hold it up again. No, move it. I can't see the bottom of it. Yeah. No, I can't. No, it's the Blessing Old Lady. Yeah. Was it? Who is it? Mary Magdalene's Old Lady.
Yeah, Mary Magdalene. It's Mary. It's Mary Magdalene and Jesus, obviously.
Yeah. No, I don't know, Charlotte.
And now, Tony, I'll tell you where you find. This is what I mean about the churches. They are mini art galleries. They're just incredible. That is in the Dominicans in Limerick. And it used to be in the old days when the altar was, against the wall.
Yeah.
There were three beautiful panels. This is one of them, carved by a company called Bolton's in England, Bolton's of Worcester in England. And now, because they have been moved back, if you like, they're back in the altars. They've been moved back against the reredos.
Yeah.
And you don't see them that much at all, and they're just so beautiful. Three panels.
I those at all known the Dominicans, and I always go to mass in the Dominicans. Call those at all. I was very familiar with some of the windows. I shouldn't be saying it, but you'd be bored and you'd be looking up at the windows, all the colours, you know. Sometimes
there's a lovely. They have another, not just Murphy and Devitt's in the Dominicans, but the main glass over the high altar is by a very famous company, an English company again, called Wales of Newcastle. And again, it's the Transfiguration. There's a Transfiguration down in St. John's, and they have the one in the Dominicans. And it's by, as I said, Wales of Newcastle did that, and did in about the 1870. They did it, and they're a very famous company as well.
Tom, there's no stained glass in Browne, is there?
I don't know Browne. Never went down there.
There's a beautiful one behind the altar, donated by Mrs. Mulqueen of Corkamore.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it of, Tom?
St. Joseph.
Oh, lovely.
St. Joseph's Church, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a picture. I send you a picture of it, Charlotte.
Oh, I'd love to, Tom. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We're talking here over an hour already, and I forgot to keep telling people to say.
We haven't mentioned headstones yet.
Headstones. We don't talk about headstones. Anyway, first of all,
I like headstones.
Oh yeah, but
Especially if they've got the instruments of the Passion on them or other things.
You see some lovely things that some of the old headstones.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Headstones now going into graveyards, you know. I don't like the black marble, because black marble can't be cleaned.
True, yeah.
Start falling off it. It's impossible. The only thing I would admit is some of them have I think it's great to see an address on a headstone. At least you know who
It is. Yeah.
headstone. Also, and some of them have photographs in them. You know, I want a big photograph when I'm in my headstone. You know,
We'll give you one.
With a sewing needle on it.
so
Actually, that is a good idea. That is a very good. Having a trade symbol on your grave slab is a great idea.
Oh, down West Clare, they have loads of.
I was going to say that
Great
we were
idea.
one time. I remember years ago, Charlotte. We were on an outing. Jim Kemmy actually was on it. We were down in Kilkee, and we were in that. I can't think of the graveyard there on the left-hand side, on the way to Kilkee near Kilrush, and the usual one.
Listine, is it Listine?
No, not Lisdane. No, I know Lisdane. No, there's another graveyard, and I can't think of the name of it. It's on the side of the road, kind of. Anyway, but I remember Kimmy was saying about giving out about the people having money. They're the big headstones, you know. And I remember the guide we had. She was a Miss Hegarty. She was in the library in Kilkee.
I remember her, yeah.
Sweeney Library.
Sweeney Library, yeah. She was the library, yeah. And she was on about the lovely headstones. I remember Jim saying, yeah, well, that fella must have probably plenty of money, you know. And there were engravings of what the people worked at on the headstones in that grave.
Yeah.
Well, Paddy Nolan took me into a graveyard there, and they had, we say, needles for tailors, and but I remember one modern one had a picture of a JCB on it, so show what he was doing. So it was bringing him to the 21st century.
Come here. I want to tell people we're talking about here about stained glass in churches, mainly in Limerick, although we jumped around in the country, and Dr. Charlotte Murphy here, who to me would be a kind of
authority.
And stained glass, and Tom Donovan. And if anybody wants to join the Limerick Historical Society, just go on to our web page and you'll find it there. And we hope, if all goes well, we might have one or two outings during the summer.
Great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be handy, you know, to get out in the fine weather and that. And it'd be nice to have one or two outings, especially in the evenings if we get good weather. We'll see what happens anyway, you know. Anyway, we're coming up to the end of the program. And Charlotte, first of all, I want to thank you.
You're welcome, Tony.
Coming on. And I thank you. I said, Charlotte, I'm thanking you for coming on the program.
Oh, I'm saying you're welcome, Tony. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
It's a different subject tonight, and the radio program is sorely missed. Your father used to listen to the radio program.
He loved it.
And it was good. And it's a pity if these programs were going out live, we'd have found out a lot more about stained glass in churches. People and giving us said you're wrong in that. That's not the church, you know, which was kind of the program. But anyway, thank you again, anyway, Charlotte, and to thank you, Tom, for coming on and Tony. You know,
Thanks, Charlotte. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tony.
If you want to see this program, get in touch. You can go on to Lear Media as well, Lear.media or the Limerick Historical Society, and please subscribe to the programs. You'll see the button down at the corner of the screen. So till next week, we'll be back again with some other type of whatever, some other subject anyway. We'll root up again, you know, and we hope we haven't bored people. But please, go around to see the churches as soon as they open and see some of the stained glass that's there. And it's worth it. And explain to children what they are, you know, why the stained glass is there to be something as well. Again, thanks to both of you again, okay?
Thanks.
Nice.